Okay, y'all, I'm finally watching Child Star, and it's 11:09 p.m. right now, so y'all are gonna get this video in a bonnet. But so far, I did notice how Demi said, as an adult now, she doesn't really like to be on camera because it still triggers her body image issues, and we know that she's going through a lot of stuff in the public eye, like her OD. I also know that Drew Barrymore got emancipated when she was very young, like 14 or 15, and she was running around Studio 54 in New York doing God knows what at a very young age. So her parents clearly didn't have that much authority over her. And she said that when she got on set, Steven Spielberg was the first person who made her feel like what she later realized was how a parent is supposed to make you feel. You don't want to disappoint them. She was embarrassed if Steven caught her drinking, but she wasn't embarrassed if her parents caught her drinking. Then Christina Ricci, I don't know her that well, but she spoke about basically the opposite of what I think a lot of people think Child Star's situation is. I think a lot of people feel like Child Star's parents push them to do it, or that the kid just wants to do it to get their family to some type of stability. But Christina really wanted to do it because she felt like her and her mom were being like silenced at home by her dad. So when her and her mom would go out to audition, she felt like her mom would just come alive and she would see her mom's real personality. They could talk freely, and she felt like nothing crazy is going to happen on set compared to what happens at my house. So actually being on set was like a space of safety for her, where we know like a lot of situations like quiet on set, it was actually like the opposite. Right. So Christina basically just revealed that her father was like a failed cult leader. So that's what she mean when she said like her and her mom was silenced at home. Her mom was kept in a place in the house where she wasn't able to be present. So them going out to auditions was actually like a sense of freedom for them. And I switched bonnets. I'm gonna tag this one in the caption. But yes, this bonnet is not coming off my head. It's wrapped around and tied in a knot in the back. So I just recognized that Christina Ricci is Wednesday from the 90s in the Addams Family. Another thing she said that stuck out to me was that when she first went back to school from one of her first auditions, she had two girls that she was cool with, and they wanted to know why she was gone. So she started telling them why she was gone, and they felt like she was bragging about it and quickly turned on her. So she said after that, she just kept herself isolated and never talked about her acting career with like regular people who she went to school with. And then Demi is saying that when she got a little older and started booking auditions, people started writing stuff on the bathroom walls saying like Demi's a hoe. And they had a petition going around her school that people were signing saying she should off herself. People are really nasty. And I'm honestly surprised because Demi had been acting since she was a child. Remember, she was on Barney and everything. So I'm wondering when did this start? But I know she said between when she got Barney and her next roles, it was like some years. So this is probably like middle school, high school when she's a little bit older and about to go to Disney. But like Demi said, all that did was motivate her because she wanted to keep pushing so that she could get out of Texas, stop going to that school, and be so famous that they can't escape her name. And I know all those kids that she grew up with was tight. Because once Camp Rock came, once Sunny with a Chance came, you could not escape her. And everybody was loving her and she was in our face. So what about it? So originally, Demi had auditioned to be on Jonas, the Jonas Brothers show, and she didn't get the role, but they told her that they wanted to consider her for some other roles. And down the line, she ended up getting called for Camp Rock. And she also booked Sunny with a Chance. Y'all don't understand. Sunny with a Chance is really my shit. Like growing up, we had in my era, That's So Raven, Hannah Montana, Wizards of Waverly Place, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, Sweet Life on Deck, and Sunny with a Chance on Disney. And I don't feel like she be getting her tens. That was my shit. I love that show. And Demi mom even admitted like she was so green to the industry and was just trying to get Demi where Demi wanted to go that she didn't realize that she was going to have to move. So when she originally got the Disney gigs, they were like, so when are you moving out here? And she was like, oh no, we're just going to be back and forth from Texas. And they were like, no, honey, that's not how this works. You guys have to move out here. Another thing I'm glad they pointed out is that the Cheetah Girls is the blueprint of Disney Channel. They realized that people wanting to be famous, kids wanting to be famous was a hook for them. And it all started with the Cheetah Girls movies in 2003, which led to High School Musical, Hannah Montana, and then Camp Rock, Sunny with a Chance, etc. And then, of course, we know that Disney was really big on their merch. And then we transitioned into JoJo Siwa because she's the newer generation of Child Star and she has even more merch than the Disney kids had. Like, Demi is literally in shock when she walks into JoJo Siwa's merchandise warehouse. She's like, oh, you have bath bombs, you have this, you have that. Like, I don't think they had all of that. And I've never really watched JoJo's content. She's after my time. But she did say that it's different for her because it's her likeness, her face, and her likeness is on everything. It's JoJo Siwa. It's not even like Hannah Montana versus Miley Cyrus. Like, she is who she is. Now we're seeing Allison Stoner. I'm so happy to see her on here, but I rarely associate her with Camp Rock or even her role on Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. I always associate Allison Stoner as the girl from the Missy Elliott video because she chewed. Allison did always seem like somebody who kept a good head on her shoulders, even though she is a child star as well. And Demi said that there was a time when they were on set at Camp Rock where she was purging, which I believe is basically getting rid of the food that you just ate on purpose. And Allison picked up on it because she already knows how it is and went in the bathroom and talked to her about it and was just real understanding and was there for her. And like they said, all of that airbrushing your pictures and stuff could also fuck with you because when you're a kid, you're going to see yourself on these pictures and be like, oh, I look so perfect. But then you go look in the mirror and you're like, what the hell? Like if that affects adult models, imagine how it affects child stars. Allison said that she does have an eating disorder as well. And I'm also sure what they said is true about the fact that when people start to see you as a brand and as a commodity and somebody who makes money for them and make or breaks them financially, they don't look at you the same way. They don't care about you the same way. They just want you to get out there, record the song, film the scene, make the money. Like, Demi also mentions an experience when she first got with Disney and had like demos, and she played them 5 songs that she was really proud of, and they kind of told her like, okay, those songs are okay, but we want to get you in the booth with this person and that person to help you write. So she said that kind of just discouraged her about her musical talent, and she never really turned to music in the same way again. So now we seeing Raven. Demi asked her when did she know this was work. She said she knew from day one. Her parents didn't play with her. They let her know this is a job, honey. You're getting paid for it. You need to show up professionally. And that's why Raven was the golden standard. I'm not going to lie. No shade. A lot of these other kids was doing drugs and stuff on set. It don't seem like Raven was playing those games, and it seemed like her family was right there. She said it's considered a family business, but if you're the only one acting and you're the only one that's famous, what is the family business? You're the family business? Like Raven herself is the family business and they all just play a role and they still don't want her to consider herself the breadwinner? And like she said, a lot of child stars are performing for their parents' affection, their parents' approval, their parents' validation. And sometimes it gets a mesh. The parents' dream bleeds into the child's dream. And I low-key feel like that might have been what happened with Raven and her dad. And rest in peace to her dad, because he recently passed and his clips are included in this documentary. So they talk about Jackie Coogan, who's one of the most famous child stars in American history. He had all this money that was supposed to be saved up. And when he turned 18, millions of dollars were gone due to his parents. So he ended up suing his parents, and they put the Coogan law in place, which made it where it was required that at least a certain percentage of the money that the child makes has to be put aside into a trust that nobody can access except for the child when they turn 18. But they're showing the map, and it looks like the Coogan laws only exist in about 11 states, which include Nevada, California, Texas, New York, and Louisiana. But I don't know how good 11 out of 50 states is after all this time. I feel like it should be more than that. Keenan talks about how him and his mom had met this guy who was supposed to be like a tax accountant, financial advisor. He ended up running off with all of Keenan's money that he had earned to that point. And like he said, that was towards the end of the Nickelodeon tenure, which means that he wasn't going to have like a secure job to job back to back like he was having. Allison also talks about how one time she was trying to pay an employee and they told her that the check bounced and she was confused. She later ended up finding out that people in her surrounding network were also taking money from her for years, which is crazy. They also had a director in the movie, Chris Columbus, Your Name's a Chop. But he did make a good point that it is very similar to when an adult signs a record label contract. You know, they might sign on for 5 or 6 years, which means now you're tied to this label until you fulfill that contract. However long that takes. It's similar when they sign on for franchises, and he used the Harry Potter kids as an example. Daniel Radcliffe signed on for 5 movies to be Harry Potter when he was a kid. So that means however long it takes, that's what he's in, and that's what he has to do. So it is very large commitments to make as a child. And he also said as a director, he finds that it's very important to cast the parents the same way you cast the kids. You don't want to be sending a kid home to a shaky environment. And they use Macaulay Culkin as an example. I don't really know much about his relationship with his father, but just from a quick look up of him, he has 8 kids, including Macaulay Culkin, and it says that he has been almost entirely estranged from his children since 1997. In 2021, Macaulay's brother Kieran stated that while Kit did not abuse him, he was neither a good person nor any kind of parent. Kieran added that he had not seen or spoken to Kit since 2014 when Kit went to New York City and they briefly talked at a theater where Kieran was performing in a play. Kieran alluded to one of Kit's sons, Shane, being the only child to have some contact with him. And Demi basically describes that whole period of time where she was on Camp Rock and Sunny with a Chance, which was her biggest mainstream time on Disney, that she was just extremely exhausted, extremely sleep deprived. Her mom said that one day she tried to get Demi out of the room. She couldn't even open her eyes. They both just started crying, and Demi's mom started to feel like she had to speak up. Like, okay, my daughter's proving herself to your network. She's a star. She can make y'all money. Y'all need to like care about her. She needs to get a little bit more sleep, this, that, and the third. And what Demi said made a lot of sense. Like, a lot of them wanted to be child stars, but you don't really know what you're getting into. And then once you get into it and you get so exhausted and so sleep deprived and you feel like nobody really cares about you and people only see you as a brand, you start to feel ungrateful. Like, damn, I wanted this and I know so many other kids want this and would trade my position in a heartbeat. So why am I doing what I say I want to do, but I'm so unhappy in it? Allison and Demi both talked about going through disassociation, where they'll see something that they filmed months later and be like, oh, I forgot that we even filmed that. Like, they don't even remember. They was just going through the motions, doing what they got to do, but they really wasn't present that day. Raven and Demi even talked about how Raven had co-starred with her on Sunny with a Chance, and she didn't even remember that. She talked to Raven later and was like, yeah, I loved your show, watched you on that. So Raven was like, you don't remember? Like, we already met. I was on your show. And Raven was just like, I didn't hold nothing against you. You wasn't the nicest person, but I knew that it was something going on there. Like, there was a glaze in your eyes. And Demi was like, yeah, I was just completely dissociated. Demi also talks about being conflicted on Camp Rock too, because when they filmed the first movie, she stayed at the same hotel with the rest of the cast. She was talking to Allison at this time. So she was like, we had all these cast dinners and we really got to connect with each other. But then on the second movie, she was staying at the Four Seasons and everybody else was staying somewhere else, except for the Jonas Brothers probably. And she said while it was validating because she had leveled up, she could tell that she was trading connection for success, and that part didn't feel good. Like, obviously on that first film, she was close to Allison filming with her, and then the second film, she didn't really see her that much. And Allison kept it real with Demi. She was like, yeah, on that second movie, you was challenging to work with. It felt like we were walking on eggshells. I really couldn't access you in the same way. We had lost that thread of closeness and trust, and it didn't really seem like you wanted to be reached in that way anymore. Demi apologized and she was like, I know we were both going through our own stuff, but that didn't give me an excuse to treat people poorly. And like, she wonders how many people did she treat poorly because a lot of this stuff she just doesn't remember. So Demi and Drew Barrymore were talking about using substances as a kid, and Drew was basically saying that she's very accountable and she doesn't blame other people. And Demi was like, well, that's hard to not blame other people if they were giving us substances when we were kids and they were adults. And she asked Drew when was the first time that somebody gave her something. She said that her mom's friend used to give her and her son the green plant, and she thought that she was so cool. And Demi also made a good point. A lot of them get this attitude of, if you're going to work me like an adult, I'm going to party like an adult. It doesn't matter if I'm 14 or 15 years old. If I'm the breadwinner of my family, I'm paying my family's bills, who's really going to tell me something? Especially when y'all are working them like dogs and using them as cash cows, the parents and the companies. So now Allison and Demi get to talking about when Demi was on tour and she punched her background dancer in the face. And I believe this was a tour that was related to Camp Rock because it sounds like Allison was there and she got kicked off the tour. And instead of them taking her home to LA, she got taken to a suburb in Chicago for like treatment. So it was like a setup intervention. Viacom owns MTV, BET, VH1, Country Music Network, and Nickelodeon. And in 2010, Viacom said that Nickelodeon was the most important component to the company. It's the cash cow. It's the driving force behind the company. I wonder if that still stands today because 2010 and 2024 look totally different for Nickelodeon in my opinion, but at least at that time, that's how he felt. So now they're starting to get into like the aftermath. So basically, you know that these shows usually run about 4 years or 4 seasons. So now that people know the formula, it's like, okay, yeah, when I first get on the show, I'm a kid. I'm extremely grateful. I'm going to do whatever adheres to the brand. But towards that last season, they're usually 18, 19, or even older, and they know that it's about to be the end of their tenure with Disney, Nick, etc. So if they start getting offers for something that might not align with the brand, they still might start taking stuff like that because they have to think about their next career move. Think Miley Cyrus 2013. She knew Hannah Montana was ending. So it was like, what's my next career move? And she chose to do the Bangers era. Now there is more into why Miley did the Bangers era, and we could talk about that another day if y'all want, but that's just a surface level explanation of that example. JoJo Siwa said that she signed an umbrella deal with Nickelodeon, so they had the right to everything except for her social media. Anytime she had a brand deal, it has to be approved by Nickelodeon. But like she said, her family was smart to keep her social media separate, and now social media has become such a machine that people can make a lot of money from it, especially if they're already a public figure like her. And JoJo talks about how she came out as a lesbian. Really, all she did was post a video of her singing "Born This Way," but she was on on FaceTime with her girlfriend. And she said literally the next day, the president of the network called her and said, so what are we going to do about this? What are we going to tell the kids and the parents? And told her that she needed to have a call with every retailer and tell them that she's not going crazy. Said she had to talk to Walmart, Amazon, JCPenney, Claire's, everybody. And JoJo said at that point, her relationship with Nickelodeon completely changed. For the last 7 years before she came out, she had hosted, performed, presented, been nominated at the Kids' Choice Awards multiple times. And the next year, they completely just didn't invite her. Nickelodeon claimed that it was an honest mistake or accident, but JoJo said at that point she already knew the treatment was different and she was basically being blackballed from the company. Demi said at one point she played 70 shows in 90 days and like nobody really explained to her, even her family and management, like you can take off time at some point if you've been working back to back. Like she said, filming multiple Camp Rocks, multiple seasons of Sunny with a Chance, recording multiple albums, doing multiple tours, co-starring on other shows, back to back to back to back. Allison Stoner also mentioned a study that said that the average lifespan of a famous person is 14 years less than the average lifespan of a non-famous person, with just normal medical health due to the mental health struggles, which leads to people offing themselves, people using substances, abusing alcohol, etc. They highlighted some people who have passed away, like Aaron Carter, Brittany Murphy, Lee Thompson Young, Judy Garland, River Phoenix, which leads to Demi talking about her OD. So Demi's talking with her sister, and they were both child stars, and she talks about how there were like some years where they really didn't see each other or spend that much time together, especially when Demi was doing Sunny with a Chance and her sister was doing Desperate Housewives, which I didn't realize. I think she was Eva Longoria's daughter. And the eating disorder runs in their family. Her sister, and her mom do have that. And on the show Desperate Housewives, her sister was kind of body shamed within the script. Like she was 4.5, but the lady in the store thought she was 7 because she was so big, kind of thing. And like Drew Barrymore said, when she was a young child star, there was stuff that she did that nobody ever found out about because there wasn't social media. So while social media does provide people with more opportunities to become child stars and make money, on social media, it also comes with less of a chance to keep yourself private, and also comes with the body image issues that could come from likes and followers, especially when you're making money off your content or have a lot of eyes on your content. JoJo Siwa talking about she posts 250 to 300 things a day on Snapchat because people would just kill to watch her eat, wake up in the morning, etc. Like, that's too much. So now they showing this little boy Ryan. They were showing like a bunch of kids saying how they watch YouTube more than TV. I've never seen Ryan before, but apparently he's been on the internet since he's 3. He has like 18 million subscribers. He gets millions of views. Like, he's a big deal. And Demi made a good point. Like, research shows that the content creation industry makes way more money than the traditional television industry. And we know that a lot of parents have their kids on social media. And like Demi said, what we talked about earlier in the film with the whole Coogan law, there are child laws set where people can make sure that they're going to have money set aside for them. With social media, there's none of that. So these parents could pocket all of this money. And then by the time their kids turn 18, there's nothing there but the videos that they don't even remember filming and being basically forced to film. So, for example, this kid Ryan that they're talking about with this 18 million subscribers, I think they say he's 10 now and he's been on YouTube since he was 3. What if his mom doesn't do the right thing with the money? What if she's spending all the money right now? And then when he turns 18 and he actually needs money and wants to start his life, there's nothing there. And his child star career will be over at this point. He might be able to continue YouTube in general, but you know what I mean? It won't be the same. So Demi talks to this lady who basically wanted to get this bill passed, and she eventually got it to this representative named Christina Reeves. So Demi talks to her and Christina Reeves, and the bill is basically something to put some type of safeguard for these child influencers as far as their money and maybe the amount of time that they can work. But yeah, the film is about an hour and a half, you guys. I definitely think it's worth the watch, and I'm about to go to bed. So good night.